Hello everyone, Brian here. Through this mini-series, Tea and Me, I'll be sharing with you my personal relationship with tea, as well as my reacquaintance with gongfu brewing of Dan Cong cha. Gongfu brewing is one of the many ways tea is brewed, and Dan Cong cha is a tea from the Chaozhou region of China. It's also a tea that my ancestors, or somebody of my ancestral heritage developed, and it's through this series I'm going to be immersing myself with Dan Cong cha and getting reacquainted with the whole culture of that tea. In my native tongue, which is Teochew, Dan Cong is pronounced Dua Zhang, and it means single plant. So we'll talk more about that tea in future episodes. Today we'll be talking about this tea plant. So being a plant and tea enthusiast, I had to have this plant, and I'm lucky to have found this plant at a local nursery. What that means is that it has been growing at that nursery because these plants don't turn over very quickly, and it means that we're sure that it can grow in this climate here in Zone 10B in the San Gabriel Valley of the Los Angeles area. So there's some brown tip. There's a lot of brown tips on this plant. Hopefully, with more love and tender care, this plant will perk right up, and we'll find lots of new, tender, green, bright green growth on this plant soon. So, very, very excited to have this plant. I'm not sure whether I want to plant it here underneath the patio where I can enjoy this plant as I go to and from the backyard, or if I want to plant it up on the slopes. In its natural environments, you'll find it on the slopes in China, and one of the reasons is because it needs well-draining soil. It doesn't like wet feet. So up there on the slopes, it will mimic its natural environment. So still debating on whether to do that, whether to plant it here or there. So it's 50-50 at this point. The tea plant, I hope I get the horticulture jargon correctly. The scientific name of this plant is Camellia sinensis. There are two subtypes, Camellia sinensis. That's the plant that is more cold hardy, and you'll find it in China and Japan. And that's the plant that makes your green teas, your oolongs, your pu'ers, and some of the more Asian teas. And then you have the warm weather hardy tea plant, Camellia sinensis assamica, and that's the tea plant where you'll find a lot of Indian teas made from, like the Darji tea, and one that I'm not too familiar with. One day I hope to get in that area and enjoy those teas as well. I've had some tastings, but compared to the Asian teas, it's one that I definitely need to acquire. So I want to one day just kind of get into that category and enjoy those teas as well. This tea plant has a very long and profound impact on history. In relative terms, the more recent history of this plant and its impact is its role in the founding of this country, the United States. It was part of a protest against taxation, and the famous Boston Tea Party comes to mind when we talk about one of the events that led to this, the founding of this nation. So going further a little bit back, it has its influences in Morocco and Moroccan tea, and that's one of the things that is pretty neat about this plant as well, and is that there's many ways to enjoy tea, and I cannot pronounce the name of Moroccan tea, but that's one way to enjoy tea. And I also have some Moroccan mint, the actual type of mint that is used in Moroccan tea, growing underneath the lime tree over there. So, and there's you can just page through history and you'll find this tea somewhere in time, somewhere on this planet. this plant and the cultivation goes back 4,000 years. And one that is, along with sugar, the sugar cane has a huge role in shaping our culture. Yeah, so from this plant, you can make tea with it. Just one thing to keep in mind when it comes to tea is that there are different qualities of tea. Just like wine, you have your box wine and your fancy wine. Tea is very, or not exactly similar. The quality of your tea is going to be dependent on your growing conditions, your plant, and then the crafting of it. So for wines, it's very similar. You have your regions where wine grapes produce well. In California, we have our Napa Valley, that's famous Napa Valley, and then our upcoming area, Paso Robles for your Pinot Noirs. Well, tea is very similar. For the Asian teas, like the oolongs and the pu'ers or the tea kuan teas, we're going to be wanting to pay attention to the region in which it's grown. You got your Chaozhou area, Guangdong, Fuzhou, and all those areas. So, so you have that. So you have the soil. So the next part of tea quality, where it sits on the quality scale, you have your soil, your environment, and then you have your plants. Good tea comes from plants that are probably 30 plus, 60 plus, or even 100 plus years old. This one, I'm not able to gauge the age of the tea, but it's definitely not going to be 30 years old. Though the trunk is a good thickness, it's about the girth of my thumb. So you have, your nicer teas are going to be 100-year-old plus tea trees or tea shrubs. Camellia sinensis is a shrub, so hopefully I don't call it a tea tree too often. Tea trees are a different plant altogether, and those are plants that grow native to Australia. So after you have your plant, your soil, you have the age of your plants, you have the crafting of it. So your tea, the taste of your tea is then going to be affected by when the leaves are plucked and how many of the leaves are plucked. So you have your spring plucked leaves and your fall plucked leaves, and those have different taste profiles. And then you have probably your box wine teas, your lower end teas. They're probably plucked whenever the grower feels like it. So after you have your soil, the age of your plants, when your leaves are plucked, you have the crafting of the tea. So that is a very complex equation where it involves the time you allow the leaves to dry, the humidity. Once the tea dries, whether you steam it or not, how long you roast it for, and then whether you charcoal roast it or not. After that, you have quality control, where you go and you have people go and sort through the tea, and they pick out the scraps and throw them aside. So that's going to all go into whether your tea is over here or over here. In future episodes, we'll be doing some tea tasting of some teas that are kind of in this area, the middle area, and a little bit over here. I don't know if I'll ever get over here in this area, because those teas get really, not only really expensive, but also one that you probably cannot find on your own, and you probably need some kind of liaison to help you get. So that's something that I want to try one of these days. So hopefully we can do that. But yeah, so you have those teas. The reason I talk about that is this is a little bit of a precursor to future episodes, but also that it's important to keep that in mind, because I know many of us would want to get our own tea plant and make our teas, and we're thinking probably we want to make these kinds of teas, but in reality we're probably going to make these kinds of teas from these plants, given all the parts of the equations that it's still missing in order to make this kind of tea. But nonetheless, you can grow Camellia sinensis and pluck these green leaves and brew it into a healthy drink. When you have tea brewed from fresh leaves, you have very, very little caffeine, and you have a lot of green, rich, fresh leaves that are good for you, a lot of antioxidants in those leaves. And we've done that with another tea plant that we had. And the taste is very different from crafted tea, so definitely something to try. And then as far as growing this plant, the information on what it likes ranges. So that's something that we're going to be kind of keeping our eye on, because some texts say that it can grow in full sun, some texts say that it can grow in partial shade. And you may have seen in one of the many garden tours, I don't even know which one of the videos I did where we showed that tea plant to even put a link for you. We saw a tea plant that we got last January, same time this year, last January, and it was sitting underneath one of that plant over there, an ornamental plant, in the shade for 10 months. And it was doing okay, thinking that it's probably ready for full sun. Brought it out for full sun, and unfortunately that was that week in October where we got this death ray that killed our cactus over there, our beloved cactus over there, and singed the leaves of this turmeric plant here, where if you can see the yellow, that's where the turmeric plant was singed, and that plant just got, the tea plant just got vaporized, and I was very, very sad about that. So earlier this month, or just a couple weeks ago, I went out to the nursery again and got this tea plant, and we're just gonna baby it. So yeah, we're just gonna keep an eye on it, see what it likes. We're gonna start it off in partial in shade right now. At the nursery, they had it underneath the canopy, and we're just gonna slowly introduce sun to it, and we'll keep an eye and see if it can handle full sun. So I guess over time, I'll be able to tell you if you're interested in growing tea in the Southern California or desert area, whether it can handle full sun or not, or if it prefers shade. Yeah, and that's, I guess that's pretty much all I can think of at the moment about this tea plant. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments below, and I'll try my best to answer them for you. And I hope you stick around for future episodes in this mini-series. We'll be talking less about plants. So if you're here for plants, we're probably not going to be talking about the tea plant too much. We'll be talking about tea, and then I will be sharing with you my reacquaintance with Dan Cong cha. And mostly it's my way to rediscover my roots and my ancestors, and also practice some of the more, I guess today we'll call it archaic way of social networking, where we go and make connections with people in person, and we do that through tea, as opposed to in modern times where we connect with people via technology and social media. So we'll talk about those in future episodes. And once again, our Camellia sinensis tea plant. Wanted to introduce you guys to him. He's the newest addition to our Never Enough Dirt gardens, and hopefully he will be nice and happy here. So there's our plant. And until future episodes, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.